getting this thing together. And we talked about it once before, being such a communicator, and having a lot to say about things. And man, I'm just glad to be here. Glad to be here with you. Like I said, doing this.
Mhm.
Um, this is really a good thing because you bring other voices to talk about the things that your organized topics.
Mhm.
That's how you really, like I said to you before, how you really can build a base of people to support what it is that you're doing. So
Mhm.
yeah, like you say, this is my cousin, y'all. Like I say, it's my blood cousin, and I know y'all remember Matt White from being a hooper. So that we definitely grew up on the
Uh-huh.
basketball court, Cloverland,
Uh-huh.
Texas. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely, baby. Now, kinfolk, they don't know. Some of them may not know what it is you got going. Tell them, give them a little rundown, a little background, just how you maneuver.
Sure. Well, my company's called To God Be the Glory Sports,
Mhm.
and I've been doing To God Be the Glory Sports since 1997. I've been doing basketball camps and sports exhibition activities to try to, well, to connect young people to scholarships firstly, and then professional athletes to opportunities that they qualify for.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's been a 23 years now.
23 years. Hey man,
23
I
years. Like
vividly
that's
remember
half of my life.
going
23
on those
years.
tours back in the Gap, and a few of my buddies, man. The real talk, man. You're a pioneer in the city without even knowing it. Low key, just a whole pioneer because I don't think I know of anyone else in Houston who has been able to open up avenues and platforms the way you've done, specifically on that court. You know what I mean? So, how I say, like genius talk, man, really. But okay, so what else is that? Is there anything? How do we get in touch with you, folk? Like in terms
Well,
of, you know what I mean?
great. I am on Twitter at
Mhm,
TGB Sports One
mhm.
on Twitter. My website is tgbtgsports.com. Most people can just Google "To God Be the Glory Sports" and it should pop right up. Um, and yeah, I'm here to serve. I definitely am at a stage in my career now where I'm always trying to connect the dots,
Mm-hmm.
on and off the court for guys. I've had a lot of interesting projects come my way,
All right.
with the Stephon Marbury thing.
Absolutely.
And with Steph Marbury being Steph Marbury is just a really smart guy
Mm-hmm.
that I learned a lot from too.
Okay.
Because being hoopers and then seeing
Absolutely.
how he was producing shoes, producing all this other product
Mm-hmm.
and taking advantage and capturing the market. So, I'm always trying to connect the dots and help guys, maximize what it is they got going on.
For sure, man. Well, hey, big ups to you, cuz. Big blessings. I know you're gonna do what you do. You've been doing what you've been doing, man, and always been proud of you, bro. Always stood confident speaking on your name, man, to folks. But without further ado, the show is called Thought Provoking Content,
I
folk,
love it.
right?
I love it.
So we certainly want to touch on some subject matters that would that need to be addressed within our community, folk. That seem to go swept under the rug a lot. We
Mm-hmm.
do that a lot in our community, and I
Right.
hate that specifically because I think, in my opinion, it keeps us stagnant, right? It keeps us where we are, which seems to be last place if you look at it across the board, still, right? So I wanted to touch up on a subject matter, fields that produce revenue quicker than a degree. And why I
Mm.
chose this particular subject matter, Kim Folk, to start off with is because of the emphasis that was put on us within our community
Mm-hmm.
to get that degree.
Mm-hmm.
Right now,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that really was of detriment, folk, in my opinion, not to negate a degree and its credibility. Right. I'm
Mm-hmm.
aware that if you, depending on the degree, you could get an entry level job that could pay you fairly. But I'm talking about the majority, right, across the board. That was okay. For example, folk, when Grandpa graduated high school,
Mm-hmm.
literally he was certified already with a trade
Sure.
that he could provide for his family initially at 18 years old. They took that out of schools, right? I wasn't afforded that luxury. I don't know if you were, folk.
I
Maybe you
think,
were, but
well, I can say, we're cousins, right? So we
mhm,
we have uh a similar lens in some regards
Mm-hmm.
as to how that has worked. You know, when you talk about providing a trade at that time, right now, what has happened is, there's been the integration, and with the integration has come a different mindset from Black people, from African Americans,
Mm-hmm.
as to that college education, more higher education, more degrees is going to give you a slice of the Anglo-Saxon defined,
American pie, right?
but that was it. So when you
Mm-hmm.
think about it,
Mm-hmm.
of the time of integration when schools were desegregated, and now you have races getting basically access to the same education,
Mm-hmm.
it created the illusion that there would be access to this life,
Equality,
instead
right?
of
Mm-hmm.
as you're saying, understanding the blessing in the trade, and just being able to maintain and live a lifestyle to support you and your family, and pass on some generational wealth, be it through cash or life insurance.
However, folk, right?
Right.
And I think that's important. Well, a couple of fields, Ken, folk, and that stood out to me that really were, like I say, just jumped off the paper was a carpenter, folk. They say makes up to $52 an hour. Huh?
That's a lot of money. That's a lot
I
of
don't,
money doing woodwork. But these are you think about it, these are just a special. Go ahead with some more.
okay,
Let's see.
boom.
I
So
want.
you got
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
carpenter
yeah.
that jumped out, right? You have the HVAC tech that
Okay.
makes $40 an hour,
Okay.
right? You've got the plumber who makes up to $45 an hour. You've got a crane operator that goes at 41. You've got a commercial driver that goes up to
Okay. Let
37.
me
So
start with those five. So
boom,
I counted five different trades. Okay.
boom.
Every time that you mentioned one of those, what I kept in mind was the two things. What are the two things that in households they dominate? Tell you that if you handle your business, you can be these two things. What are they?
You
You could be
provider
no,
and
no, 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 no. They give you specific job. You could grow up. You could be
a lawyer or a doctor.
there you go.
Go.
Ding ding ding.
A
What
lawyer
the
or
thing is.
the Bob. Facts,
They
folks.
tell you
Oh,
you
you could
could
be
be
a
a doctor or a lawyer.
facts.
Okay, so you read out five specific trades.
Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned each of the five, I kept those two in mind, thinking of how many doctors or lawyers could do these five things, and probably not very many. So my point is, it's a specific skill set, just as specific as this two things that they just
Doctors
tell
and
you to
lawyers,
be.
right?
It's just as a specific and demand. Because guess what? When the plumber needed, doctor and lawyer gonna call them.
And
When you're
man,
trying to build that deck out there on that house, the doctor and lawyer gonna call carpenter and pay him 75, whatever the number.
exactly, folk, right? And I think that's just it's a travesty, in my opinion, brother, to preach such a one-sided, biased view of life. In my opinion, you don't give a child a chance to maximize his or her potential. You keep them stagnant, and you repeat that cycle, right? So that generational curse, if you will, stays, and you got to be willing to break that. And I mean, I know it's not easy,
It's
but
an openness,
you
like you
certainly have to
said.
be willing to break that.
We have to be open. I think one of the phrases that's overused, not just in the black community, but in community in the world at large. It seems like a small thing, but it's one of those phrases that always kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Okay.
When people say, "I respect the janitor same as the CEO."
Okay.
That's a kind of loaded because what you're doing in that statement is you're shading the janitor as if they wouldn't be worth respect. I treat the
The same.
janitor the same as the CEO.
I said that though,
You,
folks. So
I
let me.
understand, but do you understand what
I'm
I'm
getting.
saying?
I'm understanding your
You
perception.
understand what
Break
I'm,
it down to me a little bit more
that's
though.
my
How do I
perception.
how do I
When you
shade
say
the
when you say
janitor
when you say
if I'm
I treat
saying
this, and again, this is my
I
opinion,
got you?
people.
It's,
People who are
we
listening
need
in,
it.
I'm
We
not
need it.
saying that you should think this way. I'm just telling you that this is my opinion. I'm
Okay.
on the show to express something that I think, and I personally don't say that. I respect the janitor the same as the CEO. It's almost implying that the CEO's job is more important than the janitor. It's a light
I get it. I
implication
can
there,
understand that.
and you're kind of seeking a pat on the back for giving equal respect to
When
what your
that's
lightweight saying is a lesser a
I
position in
got you.
society
Notarized
that
job. I
you
got you.
understand what I mean.
Absolutely. Sought
So
after job. I got you.
yeah, I'm just hypersensitive to those type of things. Being a communications major,
Mm-hmm.
being somewhat of an
Mm-hmm.
etymologist, wordsmith, and
Mm-hmm.
I just
I get
and
it.
again, I understand, like, people, they're not thinking like that a lot of times. They take it as a statement, like just what you said. Like,
Okay.
I treat the janitor the same as I do the CEO.
Right.
Like, I get what you're meaning by that, but
Right.
in my mind,
One, it could
it's
be
like that.
perceived much different. I got you.
It's like that. Statement, like, the same thing, like, man, I treat the trash man the same. Man, that who, man, everybody go sit their trash can on that curb when the trash is coming.
And
If
if you don't,
if you stay in the apartment, you
right,
take trash back, and you be happy when the man come get your trash.
right,
So that's what I'm saying.
right.
It's like we
I
kind
got
of
you.
carry these things around
I do.
sometimes. It's, you know,
I
thought
do.
provoking, man.
It
That's why
is.
they got me on
I
here
need
tonight.
it. I need it. Okay, without further ado, I certainly want to give a shout out to my sponsor. My sponsor is Dab at the Spot in Third Ward. The address is 4709 Emancipation Avenue. If there's a Sunday where you're chilling, I recommend that you hang out there. These are my people, man. These are grown up Black folks. We hang out, we groove. It's no foolishness. We're grown. It's a grown environment, and we just hang tight. But Aaron is the owner of the spot, and this is my man. If y'all ever get a chance, man, on Sundays, man. You can also like and subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat at Talk Black Podcast, right? And this is through Talk Black Network also. So make sure you guys tune in. If you want to call in, if you have a question about anything that you hear today on the show, please don't hesitate. Hit me up, 281-818-6218. Again, 281-818-6218. All right, folks. So going forward, I kind of want to briefly discuss about the electoral vote and its importance, right? Because I think a lot of Black folks still are in denial about this whole voting process. I see that the news has been releasing info. The media says something about Joe Biden as the elected president, right? But once again, we have to do our research. I believe in 2000, folks. This is facts, what I'm giving you now. The presidential nominees were George Bush and Al Gore. And if you recall, initially, in fact, for about 32, 33 days, Al Gore was the president. Yeah, you can go Google it if you need to. It'll show up. But for about 30 days, they were saying Al Gore was the president. Well, here comes the electoral vote, right? Somehow, some way, it ended up being Bush. So the electoral vote, right? When people cast their vote, they are actually voting for a group of people called electors. The number of electors each state gets is equal to the total number of Senate and Republic in Congress. 538 electors form the Electoral College. The candidate who gets 270 votes or more wins. So now what I'm hearing from my people, folk, is that December, I want to say 14th or 13th or something like that is supposed to be the date in which this decision is made for the
That's a
actual
30-day process to get all the votes and all the votes counted.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
no, please, because
Yeah,
I'm
as far as what I know about it, I mean,
okay.
they what they've been trying to cover in the media is to just basically try to keep the public informed on the actual number of electoral much, which is why they keep pumping this 270. Now, we live in America, and stranger things have happened.
Facts.
Uh,
Facts.
now that's just the vibe I have about the election process. Now, did I vote? Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
I took part in voting drives. After the George Floyd tragedy,
Absolutely.
there was we did a few voting
Such a
drives
travesty too,
voting
man.
drives in some areas. Um, it's interesting though, uh, because in one while they want the American people to have such confidence in the voting process and
Right.
an open democracy in which every person's opinion of or choice matters.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, like I said, this electoral college, and I don't care how you define it. I don't care how you read that off. I don't care how I think to the average American citizen, even people who I think that the process is extremely unclear.
Okay.
Do you agree with me?
Absolutely,
I
folk.
think that you can read it. I think that you can focus on it. I think that you can want to understand it, dive into it. But I think just for the average American citizen, even with giving it some effort to understand what's going on with, I still don't think that they will really know what's going on, like how the whole thing is really
Well,
shaking.
right. What's really confusing to me, folk, is how in specifically 2016, um, the voting numbers turned out in, I guess, the voters' favor, if you will, right?
As
Because of
far
course,
for the candidate, yeah,
right.
yeah, for the popular vote
There
was
you go.
for Hillary. The
There you.
popular
Thank you.
vote
Thank
was
you.
for Hillary
There
Clinton.
you go. So if the motto is to quote unquote vote or die, and then you vote, and then it still don't turn turn out in your favor, even when the numbers show that it turned out in your
That's
favor.
the part. That's the part. Is that part right there. So is that part because again, uh, President-elect Joe
Mhm.
Biden,
Okay.
President-elect Joe Biden, on his speech to accept the presidency,
Mhm.
was saying to the people who didn't vote for him, he was speaking directly to those who did not vote for him, saying how much he wants to unify and become their president too.
Okay.
But it's just what you said. Uh, the people who the vote, okay, if it didn't turn out the way they wanted to, they say they cheating,
Right.
is voter fraud,
Hmm.
and it ain't no cooperation. Like
Right.
so it's like I don't know. And that December 13th day is like I'm kind of waiting to see too, because I remember that Al Gore incident.
You know what
And
I
it's
mean?
funny because you bringing that up, and not too many people are bringing that up.
They really aren't, because we love to catch amnesia. See, black folk catch selective amnesia, folk. You hear me? Selective. We be knowing. We just we play deaf and dumb. Black folk real. We selective dumb, man. And I hate that as a community, because I think if we looked inside ourselves and held ourselves just as accountable as we hold our counterpart, I think that we could get the results desired, folk. But I guess that's a whole nother topic of discussion, man. But I don't know, folk. I'm just confused with that, because I get so much feedback day to day interacting with my social media family, right? And I'm just confused. It's just so much that they put in front of you to kind of keep you distracted. You don't know you got your rappers messing with Trump. You got your rappers messing with Biden. It's just a big circus. You ask me. A big circus, but it's a distraction, folk, to what's really going on behind them closed doors. And I see what some black folk do is we pay attention, folk, right? I don't know if you've been seeing floating around, folk, on your timeline. There's a video of them courts against all these folks: Ellen DeGeneres, Oprah Winfrey, Michelle Obama, Barack Biden, all his son, all of them, folk. Like they were on that list, folk, from old Epstein. You know what I'm talking about?
Okay.
Jeffrey. They was on it. It was on that list, basically going to that island, and all they did on that island was had them little girls. They kept them little girls on that island. In fact, it was documented that it was trafficking going on that island, folk, right? So it's a bunch of, behind the scenes stuff that they want to keep us distracted with. Now they coming back with the heavy load of COVID. I'm looking I'm looking at the news before I leave the house, folks. Today, specifically, 130,000 cases came up, or something, right? So, distraction, folk, in my opinion, from the voting, from the election, from the big old frenzy that it's in now. What you got Trump talking about, he want to press charge, he gonna file a lawsuit in court, and big show, brother. But it's a distraction from what's really going on, folk. And I be wanting my folk to keep their ear to the street and keep their eyes open, man, because you know, black folk have been getting swindled for far too long, man, to still be in the predicament we in. And we've done far too much contribution. So, anywho, that's that, folks. Let's move forward, right? I wanted to touch up on black folks and law enforcement, folk. Now, I know you could kind of help me here because you've been dealing firsthand lately, as of late, you know what I mean, with issues in terms of that. Well, what stood out to me, folk, about black folks in law enforcement was I did my research, folk. Anything that you hear me discuss, I've done thorough research on, so I'm not just blabbing, right? What stood out to me, folk, though, was the first blacks were hired in 1948 by the Atlanta Police Department, right? This is documented. Now, their duties were they couldn't carry guns or arrest white people, folk, right?
Right.
They couldn't. Let me run that back. They could not carry guns or arrest white people. Okay. Now, they also couldn't work from the Atlanta Police Department. They had to work from the YMCA basement, right? So I'm trying to.
There's a lot of inequalities. It's.
I'm trying to figure out, though, folk, what would possess a black person to want to become. Now, before that, folk, prior to that, law enforcement started off as actually being what they called an overseer, right? An overseer was also known as a slave catcher, folk.
Right.
They even had the badge that the laws wear today, right? So again, this is the origin of the department that you're working from. And I'm trying to figure out how we can correlate a relationship with one who potentially caught and killed your ancestors.
Well, it's just like what you're saying, what we said earlier. Um, the USA, man, we have such a history of oppression. Um, just thinking about what you said, overseer,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm thinking about that movie 12 Years a Slave,
Mm.
and it was a scene in there where the guy, what's that gentleman's name? He's a really good actor, but he got caught by his white slave owner, and the slave owner was accusing him of trying to be an overseer. And he was pleading with the guy not to beat him. It's like, no, I'm not trying. He said he want to be an overseer.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember him using that and then thinking about what you're talking about, like the need to be accepted. Like, okay, in 1948, if I'm a black guy, I would consider the way segregation has me and the position that society has me in America. I would think it was somewhat of an elevation to even be accepted at, like, say, even though I got to work at the Y,
Mm-hmm.
even though I can't come down here, even though can't carry a gun,
Mm-hmm.
even though I can't arrest, you know what I mean? It's
Right.
like,
The need to be accepted.
I'm
right.
inching closer. I'm inching closer to a validation.
Right.
So that's a great.
Boy.
So it's like that's what I really.
I get it. I understand.
Once you get to a point, and this isn't even a racist thing, because a lot of times, uh, people tend to think when you have a strong self love that you're being racist or that you're being against someone else when you're for yourself. But the first thing that people need to do is stop seeking this validation. That's the first thing. Like,
For sure.
stop seeking this outside validation. Just stop it.
It is, man.
Because what will be, and your spirit, the truth of the person you are is gonna connect you with all races of creed. I mean, like you say, I spent, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
spent half of my life in China. I've been to
Facts.
China since 1999,
Facts.
living amongst Chinese people,
Facts.
living there,
Oh,
not
he speaks
visiting,
Mandarin too, y'all. So yeah,
living in
don't sleep on
China.
Kinfolk.
Ni hao, 我的中国朋友非常高兴. I said, hello, my friends, happy today.
In real
But
life though, y'all.
real life though, but that's
Kinfolk
the thing.
on genius level, what I'm trying to tell y'all. But anywho,
what I'm saying is this need for validation that I don't. It's like, yeah, it's like my black people. That's how I see it coming back into America out of being in China and living. It's like my black people. Like, why do we need all this outside validation? It's really not coming from the right place. Most of the stuff we trying to give validation off of, one of the scriptures in the Bible talking about people. Some people's glory is they shame. Some of the stuff you trying to get validation from, you really ought to be ashamed of that. You shouldn't even really want to know nobody know you doing that goofy,
In real life,
but
Well, in real life though, folks, you know what I mean? Because it's just, hey man, enough is enough, brother.
Enough,
I feel like exactly what you're saying, folk. Right? Black folk have got to get out of this timid, compromising spirit that we have. That I don't know where it came from. There's a saying, folk, that goes, "Our ancestors had courage and no resources." Today, that's flipped for us, folk. Today, we have resources, no courage. So I'm trying to figure out, we spoke on this, folk, did we not? How we still coming up short? Okay, folk, now there's also a factual statement that states in 1910, folk, we went over this, blacks were responsible for 20 million acres of land, right? 2020, now we're responsible for less than 10,000.
So wait a second, let me get the zeros right. We had 20 million.
1910, 110 years ago. This is just 110.
20 million.
20 million acres of land we were responsible for. So in 110 years, now, let's keep in mind, in 1910, we weren't even allowed to read. Right? Now, I could be wrong. So I certainly want to, if there's some help out there, right, that could help me. From my understanding, in 1910, black folk were not allowed to read.
I think it'd be safe to say that there was no set educational curriculum for colored people at that time. I think
with that saying, how is it that even during those times, we had ownership of so much space?
Well, here's what. Like I said, my take on it, like I said, and this all ties in.
Please, I'm listening.
We can't read and write.
Okay.
The literacy level is low.
Boom.
But 1865 Emancipation Proclamation, Abe Lincoln say y'all get 40 acres and a mule, right?
Facts.
So like I said, we might have got that 40 acres and a mule and then got re-pencil whooped on some paperwork that couldn't be. Now, this is all theory now. This is nothing. That's
what that sounds like.
This is all theory, though. This is all theory. So let me put that disclaimer out there because I don't want to state something that's fact. I'm just saying this, but like if we had 20 million acres of land and that dwindles down to a paltry 10,000, that kind of indicate that maybe maybe they met the pledge. Okay. Maybe 40 acres and a mule was distributed. But because of the lack of aptitude, lack of literacy, along come and see, like I say, the way if I'm a black guy and I was owned by a white guy, they owned me. They had the chance to really create this illusion that their intelligence is superior to mine. I mean, they've owned me. And if I do got 40 acres in the mule, guess where I got it from? Them. Right. So it's easy to manipulate a person when you feel that you're in a compromised situation. So, like I say, this is all theory, but don't it make sense? I mean,
it make a whole lot.
I mean, it's real easy to pencil whip something. Hey, man, hey, sign here, boy. Yes, sir, man. I said, ooh, he gonna give me 40 more acres.
And you done gave up your whole joy.
You gave your whole joy like that, holding the bag and the sign with your thumb up. You know what I'm
Boy,
saying?
dog, that's the coldest card game ever. And I'm not laughing at my people, boy, because hey man, I'm empathetic too, man.
And
You know
that's
what I
why
mean?
this
I
bar
can
keeps
put my
moving, Matthew.
say that
That's why
again.
this bar keeps moving right now. The bar is moving. Like
Mm-hmm.
you said, okay, back. Let's go back to your original point
All right.
about the jobs,
Boom.
about the trade.
Boom.
And then we integrated. And then we started going to college.
Boom.
Then we started getting college degrees. Okay, now this means that the literacy level is improving through the education.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is the value of this bachelor's degree and stuff because we start having them?
Like you said, you just then raise the bar now.
The
So
bar,
that bachelor
the
ain't
bar
really
is
nothing.
moving.
That bachelor ain't really nothing.
Oh,
no
they
more.
can. Black people can read now. Now again, we gotta understand. See, it's just an ugly truth. Like it's a really ugly truth that it's just terrible, ugly truth when you think that a lot of the air quote prosperity of America was just built on this equality and unfairness towards a certain group of people.
Mm-hmm.
That is actual fact that cannot be denied or run away from. It just can't be changed. Now, how that fact is dealt with speaks to the overall character of our nation.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not going to run from that fact. You're not going to twist history around and try to make it seem like America arrived at this point without the willful implementation of unfairness and inequity. You just can't deny that.
You can't, folks. And I think that's the issue. It's sort of like Brother Malcolm told us. He said, you can stick a knife in my back 9 inches, right? And pull it out to 6 and make it seem like it's cool. But pulling it out to 6 still got the knife in my back, right? When you pull it out even fully, if you don't address that wound, then I could die. America won't even admit that they got the knife there, man. And that's the issue, I believe, man.
I agree.
They won't even admit, like now, folk, in curriculum, and this is facts too. I can you can Google this. They're trying to make it as if we willfully came over on slave ships and agreed to servitude for 7 years. And then after 7 years, they just kept us. This is what's trying to be reworded in Eurocentric curriculum now, if you will, brother. You know, so white folks real sneaky like that, man.
You know, and like I said, I've heard, we've heard versions of that because we're in America, right? Like America has an American education curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
So as you travel, you know, in France, in Paris, I've heard the narrative about the deal actually being done by African people who made the deal with the whites
Mm-hmm.
who came over to get their people.
Mm-hmm.
So it was actually, from their narration, it was somewhat of a willful. In America, sometimes we hear somewhat as a forceful. But it's almost like from the in France in some European history,
Mm-hmm.
it's laid out like, hey, let's make a deal.
Yeah, like, hey man,
hey, here's there's take these guys here. Yeah. So it's you got these different narratives.
Situation,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, you got these different
cloudy
narratives out there. But the fact is, we're here now, and we're not slaves.
Right.
We do have freedom, and I think all people of color, all Black Americans, everybody just looking to start looking at us like that. Just stop looking at Black people as if Black people are to be used or traded or bartered, even though I know a lot of times we so willfully put ourselves in those positions.
We do. And that's the issue that I have, folks, right? Like you just said, we put ourselves, and in my opinion, most Black people in positions of authority, they don't want the system dismantled. They just want a higher position in white supremacy almost, right? That's what it seems to me. My case in point would be a Daniel Cameron, folks, right? You got an attorney general in Kentucky, man. And, okay, now this is the okay, this is the really slap in the face to us, folks. Really. Okay. In that same town where Breonna Taylor was murdered, they have what's called Breonna's Law. It's intact right now, folks. It's already in play. What this implies is that you can't do a no-knock raid now. I mean, a no-knock warrant now,
Now,
right? When you go in. Now,
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 after the fact.
after
Yeah,
the fact. Now,
yeah, yeah,
here's
yeah.
the kicker though. The officers who made the law haven't even been arrested or even apprehended.
Well,
So
go ahead.
I'm trying to figure out, how that works, right?
This immunity that these police officers enjoy. Of course, so me, I'm a legal guy, and
For sure.
I gotta look at everything according to what's in black and white,
Right.
fairness, third party, objective view.
Facts.
Like even in the case of George Floyd,
Facts.
that's my guy, George Floyd. For you guys who don't know, George Floyd was a childhood friend of mine. We grew up playing basketball together. Once I started my company and started touring around the USA, George Floyd joined my team. He got other people to join the team. And that's one of my hoop guys from the To God Be the Glory.
Real
But when I
sweet.
saw Mr. Derek Chauvin put his knee on George Floyd's neck like that, and I later learned that in the written police training manual, there are two authorized ways that police officers can restrain people. One, with to the neck. One is by putting their knee on their neck, and the other one was by putting their forearm on the neck. Now they have 2 or 3 pages in the manual that speaks specifically with the technique as to how this should be done.
Okay.
So much so that they describe how to restrain someone once they become unconscious. So they have this is all written out.
Detailed.
Okay. So once I saw that, I knew at that moment, and you guys can write this down, that guy's not going to get charged with murder. He's not. At the worst, you get some kind of misapplication of that procedure. Because what he did was he misapplied a procedure that he was trained in. He just did it too hard that time.
Right.
But he wasn't out of left field for doing that to my friend, my teammate.
Okay.
Not to God. He was so, and the same thing. So now, after they killed George Floyd, now in 31 states, it's now illegal to put your knee on someone's neck.
So
now
it takes a life for that.
Yeah, it takes a life for that,
Oh.
But what's interesting to me about that is, like I say, Breonna Taylor.
Mhm.
What's interesting to me is that you have these smart, so-called smart and intelligent people that write down in the first place about a no-knock, how to execute this no-knock warrant that could cost a life. How is it that no one can foresee and preempt this type of stuff?
Amazing.
And then you think, okay, knee to the neck, this, forearm to the neck, this, like y'all taking time. That's just a lot, man.
It is.
And most of the stuff is going towards, people of color. If anybody can prove us different, show us a stat.
Mm-hmm.
Show us a stat where these type of inhumane restraints are happening. I'm not saying it don't happen to non-black people, but just show it where it's happening more to non-black people than it's happening to blacks. Just show it.
And that's it, folks. Literally, because you won't, right? You won't. I mean, you can go Google it. You can try to justify. You can show me the couple of cases. Okay, folks, in that same state where George Floyd got killed, what, in Minnesota?
Yes.
Okay, a couple of years prior to George Floyd getting killed, there was a black police officer on duty also with his white partner.
Yep.
He had got called to I want to say a noise complaint or some kind of situation, huh? He pulls up, folk, and there's an extreme Caucasian woman, according to the police report, she has some type of weapon. She's loud. She seems to be intoxicated. That the police report says when they pull up. So the cops reprimand her. She, I guess, in her white privilege, starts shouting out, "To hell with y'all," you know. So the cops return, "Hey, lady, take it easy." Whoop, whoop, whoop. Things escalate. Oh, somehow the woman charges them with that weapon, right? And the black officer shoots and kills the white woman. He doing 12 years right now, folks. So I'm just trying to figure out why Chauvin just got released on bond, and what he waiting on?
Chauvin got released on bond, didn't he?
What I mean, I'm just
So that's what I'm saying.
I'm trying to
That's
figure
what
it
I'm
out.
saying. So let's go back to what you said earlier. Let's connect this dot.
Okay.
Let's connect this dot.
Please, I want to. I really want to.
We got to, because what's old is new. What did you say in Atlanta? What's happening in 1948?
Say, boys.
What was they not allowed to do?
Carry guns
and
arrest white people.
So see, this is kind of you see what I'm saying?
Similar, right? Real similar. So a bunch of similarities going on. So that's my point, folks, of why a black person would even want to consider becoming part of a corporation.
Well,
well documented.
Here's why. Let's and I'm not
saying we talked about the validation.
I'm not saying that this is the answer, but you and I both know some guys who are
of law
enforcement.
Absolutely,
I have some good friends who are in law enforcement.
And good cops too. Definitely good cops. For sure. I know they're good cops.
We grew up with Hojo. You know Hojo. So I was
my guy.
I was talking to Hojo a couple weeks ago. A sister invited me over.
Okay.
I had a fish fry and all that. So I went over and he came and we were sitting there talking, man. And I said, we're just talking about the George Floyd incident and how his life has changed being a police officer since that day.
Okay.
And talking about his reasons for wanting to join.
That's live.
That's what we're talking about the reasons.
Real
that's
talk.
What we're talking
about.
He said, man, when I was getting ready to start, he said, man, your brother, Brandon, he said, man, your brother, that was the only one was telling me to go ahead and do it. He said, all the rest of them, nah, man, don't do that, just some whole shit. Nah, man. Right. So your brother was like, man, go do it. Cause he was thinking about, again, the stability of it.
Okay.
The insurance. See, the things that you're going to school, like if you're trying to be a man, trying to be responsible, you want to have insurance, you want to have benefits, you want to have 401k, you want to retire when you're 48, 52, and be able to live. Okay, that's how you're thinking. Like this is the card I'm gonna play.
Right.
He's not necessarily joining thinking I want to go out and arrest a bunch of dudes, work with the jump out boys. You're not thinking like that.
I'm sure.
So. And then one of my friends, raised me up playing basketball. We used to go hang out party. He's already retired. He's doing great. He's a great guy. I don't know how many times police get in situations, black police, we're talking about black police officers.
Boom.
How many times do a black police officer get in, he could arrest a black guy that 100% of white guys going to arrest him for, but you let the brother make it, or you try to.
Right, I would like to see that.
You see what I mean? Because something, your white boy going to arrest you, he don't do it.
Yep, facts.
But then the brother might be like, dog, man, you slipping, man, your skirt hanging, and look, man, get your rotten that out.
And I would hope that more would be,
right.
In my opinion, though, because I've dealt with a few of them, folk, man, the white cops be cooler than the black ones.
Man, that's a blessing. I done had some cool on both sides, Man,
hey, brother.
I'd had some, yeah.
Man, I done been in fear for my life dealing with some black cops, man. Literally, man. and been cool, calm, and collective in the presence of white ones. So it's kind of scary to me when you take that into consideration, because, see, I've been doing a bunch of research lately, folk, on what they call a bully coon, folk, right? Bully coonery, if you will.
I get it.
Basically what that is an epsilon male attacking another epsilon male, right?
Sure.
Now, Q talked about epsilons fading alphas, right? And that would be objective, right? Epsilon fading the alpha, but for some reason, black folk have a tendency. Black folk ain't that forgiving, folk. We're not. We just forgiving to the counterpart. See, because if we were that forgiving, we'd have long-lasting marriages, relationship. Bunch of brothers will still be alive. We just lost 2 brothers this week with 6 kids. a father of 6 kids, right? Literally 2 brothers, 6 kids lost 2 fathers this year, this week. So just this week. And so, like I said, we aren't forgiving. We're just forgiving to those who seem to do the most oppression to us, and sort of like the Stockholm syndrome, folk. Right? It's that's almost the what they call the attraction to your captor.
You know,
So,
yeah, that's an interesting phenomenon about the forgiveness and the the recipients of who people choose to forgive.
mhm,
I wanted to talk about this on the the law enforcement part, black
okay,
people and law enforcement.
mhm,
I know that was one of the topics, our targeted topics, and
right,
you know, with the whole George Floyd incident, and like I said, how I spoke at his funeral, and people may not know, back in 2008, I'd already built a 22,000 square foot sports complex from the ground up. Um, and so now, like I said at the funeral, I got these other acres, right,
mhm,
to put up this Unity through Sports Center. And we were going to call it the George Floyd Unity through Sports Center, but it's like before we can even start moving dirt around, you got 5 more people killed. You got the guy in Atlanta, Rashad. I mean, like, we can't even get
man,
the
bro.
bulldoze out there. They hosing us down. So like, okay, Unity through Sports Center. The Unity through Sports is designed to bring law enforcement together with everyday citizens through sports games,
Boom.
and not so that we could have teams playing against law enforcement. I mean, if there's a basketball league, a kickball league, volleyball, whatever, softball, whatever type of sports league that's formed,
Mhm,
the concept is to integrate members of law enforcement and people from the communities
mm,
so that they can have these sports interactions with people that could kind of change the mood, this line, this division, this tension right now that's going on between law enforcement and the
mhm,
community.
mhm.
And so that with the unit with the sports games. And the second part is, the first facility I built, the after
God be the
school
glory.
programs with the, from 3:30 to 6 o'clock Monday through Thursday. Well, those tutors will be law enforcement.
Okay.
This will be a part of their volunteer work and community service.
Okay.
They come in, they sign in when they're gonna tutor.
Mhm,
How many kids did you tutor from the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth graders?
mhm,
So we can see every month. This is how many officers came in.
mhm.
This how many hours they spent here.
Okay.
This is how many kids they work with from these schools. We can measure all this stuff. You see,
Yeah, you
and you
do.
just kind of you
You
you kind of
blend.
melt, yeah.
Blend.
Because
You do,
the
man.
more, because everybody can talk about this thing, but this is what came in me to do.
Mhm.
Like, this was my action point.
Okay.
Like, I can do this.
Mhm.
So, like I said, we got a website for that. Uh, Unity Through Sports Foundation, utsfoundation.org. There's a lot of websites that go to it. The George Floyd Unity Through Sports Center.org. That's pretty much an easy one to remember. But there's a concept drawing on how I have the 5 acres situated with
Okay.
the sports complex, the football field, and the 12 condos that we're developing. So, this is what every black person, but I'm really speaking to my black people. Find you something that you can pour your energy and passion into that can make a difference. Because
Mhm.
we can all find problems. We can all talk about how things are not perfect, but the truth is, just like you with this podcast,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
have to find something that you can pour your energy to, or if not, you're just gonna be all talk.
Literally, folk. All right. Now, without further ado, we want to make sure that you guys stay updated. So we want you to like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat at Talk Black Podcast. This is all brought to you through Talk Black Network. All right. So You guys stay tuned with us. You know what I mean? We got a bunch for you. Got a little bit left for you. A little bit left. My folk got to leave out because we got the young bull. Tell them about the young bull too,
Man, I
folks. This is my
appreciate
little
you.
cousin.
Thank you for even bugging me. My son
So,
Jackson White. Jackson White is dynamite.
yeah,
Jackson
man.
White, number 6 wide receiver for Lamar High School, and he's been leading his team he's leading his team in receptions and yards this year, and I'm really excited about him. I'm excited more so that my son has been on the honor roll at St. Pius. Well, he just transferred to Lamar. When he was at St. Pius, he made the honor roll every single semester, and it's looked like it's going to continue to be that way. So yeah,
That's
I got to get out here,
super
man.
dope.
Friday night lights, man.
Friday.
Lamar versus the Heights. So let's see what it do.
Hey, folk, man. Hey, if y'all don't know, like I said, like you said, his name's Jackson White. All right. Young bull, y'all. He catches on like extremely well. He's got like hands. Like I really call him Young Moss, man, because he gonna catch. You throw it, in that vicinity, man.
He gonna catch it.
He gonna go get it, man.
man.
You know what I mean? And I don't even think sky's the limit for my little cuz, man. And I'm not trying to be biased because hey, I was cold too. Now ask him, folk, you know what I'm saying? Don't get it twisted now.
Weezy.
Hey, I kill you, you know, for no reason.
Weezy.
I kill somebody who look like you know what I mean? But anywho. My little cousin though, man, y'all. Hey, if y'all get a chance, can they like? Because I know you said that they can't like only family can come. So like, how would they even like? They have to catch them on the highlight film.
You gotta catch them highlight film. You can follow Jackson on Twitter at JWhite5_ on Twitter at JWhite5_.
Yeah,
But Matt, before I take off, man, I know we're recording. I want to give you this China Hoops shirt.
Okay.
Because this China Hoops. People don't know that China Hoops is a guy. This is the mascot. This China Hoops is a mascot for a content site that I'm a shareholder in. And what that does is it's all for Chinese people. Listen, there are 450 million Chinese basketball fans. That's 100 million more than the U.S. population. So what we do is we feed them content and just basically get paid to put out content on that site.
Okay.
And yeah, man, this is the mascot Hoops, and Hoops goes out to all the different basketball courts and stuff like that. Okay. And then give you a copy On the Path to Life. Now, this was a book I wrote about 15 years ago, actually, right? And so with the George Floyd tragedy, I had a lot of people that were calling up and reordering the book. So what I did was I wrote, I added the chapter, which was actually my speech from George Floyd's funeral. I added it as a bonus chapter. But yeah, I'll give you a copy of this too. And the guys, you want that On the Path to Life, you guys can get it on my website.
Folk, man. I certainly appreciate that, man. Well, yeah, man. Hey,
no doubt.
Appreciate you coming out, folk, man. You know what I mean? You could have been anywhere else in the world, bro. You came to mess with little cuz, man, and for that, I'm grateful, brother. For real,
Proud
man.
of you, man.
Thank you, man. I really do, brother. You know, so this is me, y'all. Y'all know me, man. Mr. Matt. Y'all can catch me on Instagram at intellectual_individual, right? You can catch me on Twitter at Godson3, Gods, Gods, Son, SON3. Catch me on the Snap at King_Matt, MATT, the number 53. Also, you guys, I'm on Facebook, Matt White, MATT White on Facebook. Also at Talk Black Radio on Facebook, y'all, because they'll be streaming my podcast live weekly as well. So there are a number of avenues you guys can check me out on. And just want to keep this thing going. I appreciate all of y'all for tuning in. I got to let folk go because he got to get out of here.
Got to get out of here. Friday night lights, baby.
But I appreciate y'all tuning in, man. I thank y'all. All love to all my people, man. I rock with black folk who rock with black folk, man. Peace.